For more than 25 years, the Initiative for a Competitive Inner City has been spotlighting and fostering opportunities for business growth in under-resourced communities. The aim has been to make the economy more inclusive, but also to spread the benefits of growth and greater expectations. As part of its mission and its annual conference, ICIC gives recognition to exemplary businesses. To tell us about this year's efforts in a time of pandemic is the initiative's Director of Data Strategy and Integration, Michael Shore. Thank you very much for being with us, Michael.
Thank you, Chris.
Michael, I want to start with what you're up against this year, because I think there's a figure I saw nationwide that 41% of the Black-owned small businesses have shut down because of the pandemic. So this sounds like you've got a real challenge.
It's been an incredibly challenging year. Between the COVID pandemic, many of these businesses are service-related businesses. So if you're a restaurant business, it's really, really difficult. If you're a food business, really, really difficult in this period. And it's coming on top of all the issues with race that have surfaced during this year. So it's been a particularly tough year. I have been shocked at the resilience and strength of these businesses through these difficult times. It's not that things are rosy, but they have pivoted to what I consider an amazing degree, and many of them will close down, but many of them will emerge from this stronger and better. But it is a challenging time.
I know there are other channels of relief or assistance, but can you talk about what ICIC has been doing to help some of these businesses over the past 6 or 7 months?
Sure. We have a COVID-19 resource center where we try to get out as much information that is practical use, how to apply for the PPP. We also have a research arm of our organization that has been advocating, like, how do you best, there are opportunity zone legislation, how do you improve that so that the benefits, when we put money towards the inner cities, that they accrue to the local residents and not people that are moving in. So it's a combination of advocacy as well as providing information, and then providing them with education, helping them access capital. So it's a variety of fronts that we're trying to do that. The other thing I think it was really important here is the networking piece of this. When companies are able to network with others, it helps their creative process. It helps them provide new ideas, get new business. So we also help them with networking. There's an inner city alumni network where many of the folks go on to do business with each other, as well as form alliances, strategic alliances that will help them as they move forward.
Well, one thing I've always been intrigued by with ICIC is how they redefine the notion of an inner city business, because that could mean anything from a humble bodega to some cutting edge technology firm. So you're really getting us to get outside the box. What's the range we're talking about here?
It is incredibly wide, right? So we have people that are coming in that revenues might be $100,000. They might have one part-time employee. And then we've got the winners of our Inner City 100 competition. That's the fastest 100 growing companies in these inner cities. And these could have tens of millions of dollars of revenue, be very sophisticated. And I think one of the benefits of bringing all these groups together, like our national conference, although it's virtual this year, we used to have separate conferences for the various urban business initiatives and we combine these all together because part of success in entrepreneurship is that vision. You have to be able to see people from your background that have succeeded is a tremendously powerful force. And we find that within our network, there are a lot of people that want to mentor and are mentored within. So how do you get these businesses that, just because you're $100,000 today does not mean you're going to be $100,000 in 10 years. And in fact, we've seen tremendous growth of these companies that have gone through our businesses. For example, Inner City Capital Connections, we survey them every year. the average growth rate from when they started the program to the current time frame is about 125% approximately. So significant growth, and that's what we're aiming for. How do you get them to that next level?
Oftentimes, what you're talking about here are men and women of color heading companies that might be doing something totally new, but even if they're not, we're talking about people who don't fit the old established profiles of the person in charge. How do you get them to overcome those barriers, or help them at least to overcome those barriers?
Yeah, I think that number one, it's helping them access sources of capital. I mean, when you look at, if you are a business that's based in Wellesley, and family and friends are a huge source of capital for many businesses. In Wellesley, there's a lot of family and friends with capital. If you're in Nubian Square, you may have a broad network of family and friends, but they may not have the capital and the sources. So I think it's really about helping them level the playing field, making sure that the advantages that exist in some of the upper middle class communities are there for places like Nubian Square or Dorchester, where there isn't, traditionally these were places that were redlined. Banks didn't lend there. So how do you break down those barriers? How do you give them the executive education that allows them to not only work in their businesses, but work on their businesses, to think strategically, to say, yes, I've got 5 things I've got to do today, but if I really want to be successful, I need to think 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line. And how am I going to set that up? And do I have sort of the educational structure that will help me think about these and pivot my business as necessary to meet my strategic needs?
I know some of these entrepreneurs are doing what other people are doing, and they're just competing, which they have the right to do. But on the other hand, I also see them maybe expanding the market for a service or a product where it wasn't before, or providing a certain kind of quality dividend. So this isn't just being nice to people. This is about working with the market, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When we look at how people are reacting to COVID, that you can't just do what you did last year. You have to think about it. One of the winners, and we can't disclose winners, they will on December 8th, that list will be published in Fortune magazine. But one of the winners, without disclosing names, really, they sold wine, and they had to think about how to do this differently. So how do you sell in when people weren't willing to come into your shop? So you have to think about different ways. You can have classes online, you can have outdoor tastings. All these things were different, and expanding the way that they came at the market. So thinking creatively in this time frame is truly essential. And again, I kudos to so many of the businesses that went through the program, because they really were thinking outside of the box and expanding how it is that they deliver goods either to consumers or to other businesses.
Well, I know some of the people who run the businesses, they might not come from the most underprivileged backgrounds, but what I also see in their stories here is how there's a trickle down effect or a rippling out effect, is that who gets the jobs and what happens to their lives after that.
Right. Yeah, great point. And I would say, Chris, that if you look at a business that's located in the financial district and you ask, what's your connection to your neighborhood? It's, I go to work there. But if you're located in a place that's economically disadvantaged, you look at the stories of these businesses, and they are deeply embedded within their community. They provide internships to local high school students. They work on charities. They work with civic improvement agencies. They are part and parcel of that community, and they are critical to bringing good paying jobs into that community. And also, I think success begets success, right? That the more people within these communities see, oh, wait, I see my neighbor just, created a great business. Why can't I do that? What's the modeling impact that occurs here? And I think it's a powerful one.
The next question, of course, and this sort of comes around, I know we've heard a lot of discussion in recent months about racial equity, but I'm thinking of the wealth gap. How important is what you're trying to do, or at least what you're trying to encourage to changing the wealth gap in this country?
Yeah, we are all about trying to bring about inclusive prosperity. The American dream, right, is that anybody from any background, doesn't matter where you start from, and you should be able to succeed. That hasn't always played out, and there are many barriers. This is just one of the items. Like, I think it's critically important that we help local businesses. I think that's a driver of economic growth, of good jobs. It cycles in on itself. That's not it, right? You also need housing, you need education. There's a whole raft of things. So we are working as hard as we can on one, what I would call a very critical segment, because it has to be, whatever you do has to be self-sustaining. The more these businesses self-sustain and create jobs, and those jobs ripple out and create other jobs, that's self-sustaining. A program that just delivers a short-term benefit, that's not necessarily self-sustaining. So I think you need both. You need both the government, but you also need private enterprise. And I think that's where we are playing a critical part, making sure that people who traditionally didn't have access to capital have those connections, that they get, some of them did not go through formal education. They didn't go to Harvard Business School. Some of them did, by the way. That's not, but everybody should have access to high quality education and mentoring, and access to not only capital, but to procurement opportunities.
Finally, Michael, if people want some more information when it's available about the companies being recognized this year, or anything else connected with the conference, is there some way they can find it?
Oh, of course. You can go to our website. It's right there, icic.org. The list will also be published in Fortune magazine on the 8th. So the 100 companies, the short, brief stories of all of them. On our website, there will be a number of videos. I would highly, they really are compelling videos and heartwarming stories of how people have succeeded in businesses and what they've meant to their own communities.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
It's my pleasure, Chris. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
It was Michael Shore from the Initiative for a Competitive Inner City. We'll have more news in just a moment.